Hey everyone, welcome to another LinkedIn Live. I have two of my friends here, Alicia Williams and Audrey Daniels. And the topic for today is inclusive leadership. And one reason why I picked both these individuals is because they both do a very good job of embracing this topic. Audrey has not one, not two, but three courses. And I know other ventures that she's doing affiliate with that through LinkedIn Learning and Madecraft. And actually, that's how I first heard of Audrey. She had posted a link on one of her courses. And as someone who's also on LinkedIn Learning, I'm always loving to see what's out there. And I saw her trailer and I was like, this is someone who understands this whole kind of theme. And then Alicia, it was similar. I did some LinkedIn stalking and I saw one of the topics that she was talking about, and it had to deal with specifically how to manage and be in the new, what I call this new HR dynamic. There's obviously a lot of changes right now, whether it's, you're virtual or you're part-time virtual, or you're in a new office environment, whether it's from a demographic standpoint or from the way you're working, or even just the types of roles that are out there. I really feel that Alicia understands these topics and more. So we're gonna have a really good conversation. The guest that graciously had prepared some questions, Van. But let's just dive into it. So first off, Audrey, I'm curious. You've talked about this topic, inclusive leadership, in your recent course. What does inclusive leadership mean to you?
Inclusive leadership is basically, and Alicia, I love your company's organization's name, Humanity in HR. To me, inclusive leadership is all about seeing people for just being that, people, seeing the humanity in others, valuing people just because we are human first, and then all other things fall into line. Inclusive in a way we, for instance, give information, whether it be with benefits, pay, anything of that nature. Inclusion dealing with not only race and gender, but other things such as socioeconomic standpoints, as names, as far as who we love. All those things break down into inclusion. But at the end of the day, it's all about seeing and valuing people just for that, being people, and that's very important.
What do you think, Alicia?
Well, Audrey really made some really great points. To that, I would add permitting folks to be who they are and accepting them and appreciating who they are and what they bring to the table, which is all of them. That's what you want. You don't want bits and pieces. You don't want them to assimilate. You want them to bring at the core who they are. And as a company, you want to utilize all parts of them to really grow your company culture. And in that way, it helps to improve business and folks feel more comfortable with where they work and they'll stay longer.
Okay. I want to dive a little further on this for you, Alicia, like from the HR kind of world. First off, I love the name. I totally agree with you, Audrey, humanity in HR. How can HR have more humanity right now, in your opinion, in the worlds that you reside in the HR sphere? What do you mean when you say humanity in HR?
Well, a big part of HR is creating policy. But another part of HR and the strategic planning with HR and companies is making sure that policy isn't just there, but it's also in practice. That's a big thing. We've all been at companies where they have these long lists of policies and vision boards, and no one ever reads it except for, maybe the end of the year or doing some type of planning, So with that, when you're putting it into practice and communicating, that's a big thing. Really communicating with your stakeholders, asking for their input, and then utilizing that input to make change. That's a huge part of putting humanity into HR and including them in the decision-making process.
Okay. What about you, Audrey? Have you had any experience in the HR, kind of the spheres that she's talking about, or is there another area of HR that you feel you'd like to add some context to?
Well, I started out in HR years ago, 2002, 2001, and I've had many leadership positions, from a district HR manager to other positions, working my way up as a file clerk. But what Alicia, again, hitting the nail on the head about how policies at the end of the day is what's going to drive the culture. It's going to drive your mission and vision. What I give to my clients now is that you don't have to look any further when we're talking about inclusion and human resources policies and things of that nature. Everything should be foundationally there from the beginning in your vision and your mission. And so that should lead the way in how we turn to these policies. When Alicia was speaking about policies, one of the things that popped up, for instance, is holiday policies, for instance. Like, what if I don't celebrate Thanksgiving? What if I don't celebrate Christmas? And so one of the things I encourage my clients to do is actually to have, when we have holiday times off, but put on there also just holiday for those who may celebrate different types of holidays. It is one policy. When it comes to fathers who want to be with their children when they're first born, when it comes to me caring for my parents and having time off like I would if I had a child, things of those natures, and that is so important. Inclusion is everything, just making it to where it's equitable for everyone. So definitely.
I love that. I love that. Well, one of the words or sayings that's opposite of inclusion is exclusion. And one thing that we had chatted offline on over communication was this idea of ways to avoid the exclusion trap. For someone who is not familiar with that, in your own words at least, and why don't we start with you, Audrey, and then you after, Lisa, if you feel like sharing. What is your definition of the exclusion trap, and what do you think are ways to avoid it?
The exclusion trap, the definition for me, because it's very personal for me, but talking to others, they have similar stories. It's all about avoiding the exclusion trap. Avoid shrinking myself because of the way I was treated for being different. The exclusion trap is me not getting into the trap of not letting my voice be heard, for instance. The exclusion trap is all about me not going for bigger promotions or avenues because of the way I was treated before, and the way that others with not with the inclusion aspect of diversity treated me. And so it's all about also being confident and avoiding that exclusion trap, especially if you're a leader. As a leader, it's important not to put my biases on others. For instance, if it's someone I think is quiet, it's not up to me to see them within my eyes, if that makes sense, with my trauma, but to see them as an individual and get to know them, and not assume that a group of people, not assume someone specific may need, say, certain type of care without getting to know them. So the exclusion trap is all about getting rid of biases and getting to know people, again, the humanity in others before making decisions. It's not about assuming who needs what from me. It's about really getting to know. And it's about me as an individual, as a leader, knowing that and being confident and not taking that trauma that's from the past and moving it into the future. And that is important as well.
What do you feel, Alicia? Any thoughts?
Yeah, basically echoing what Audrey said regarding like assimilation, and just making sure that you're not discouraged by what has happened to you in the past, and that you are able to feel confident and comfortable enough to bring your full self to the table, and realizing that that is a benefit. That's a benefit. And you're not just a number.
That's right.
I love that. You're not just a number. I know it's so true. It's this is a very interesting year with offline and people now going back to the office and new industries. I have to be sincere when I say this. I really appreciate you both sharing some context to this definition, because I feel it's one of those terms that's talked about, but it's not really defined. There's, sometimes it gets political, and political meaning like it's something, anything that's where talking news heads make it an issue, then it becomes political. Whether the talking news heads are right or wrong, but when I hear from two experts like you who have actually helped people, it's very reassuring. So that's very insightful. I want to dive into mentorship now, just to kind of end this series of questions. What advice do you have for someone in your shoes? Let's say you talk to the entry-level version of yourself, and I'll start with you, Alicia, someone who is getting started in the world that you're in, the fields that you love, what advice would you give that individual or individuals if it's more than one person?
Sure. Number one, be open-minded to different ideas and different perspectives from different people at different levels. So typically when someone's looking for a mentor, they look for the person who's the executive, who's been doing it forever. But it may have been a while for that executive since they've been out on the front line. So you are going to get a good perspective. But what about the person who's new, who's just gotten to the front line, who's trying to climb their way up the ladder? So I would definitely say mentoring doesn't have to always happen from the top. It can happen throughout the throughout the different levels of the organization.
How about you?
Mentorship is something that's very important, and that's actually how I got into the positions I did starting out. And one thing about mentorship is for those wanting to be mentors, or like, how do I address being a mentor? It starts not only on an individual level, like saying that I have someone mentor me, but it's about the allyship in it too, being an ally. Let's just say that you can't be a mentor. An ally is someone who may have influence, not necessarily the title, but influence. So if we're in a meeting and you see Audrey is new, which I was at some point, and I'm quiet, and you're an influencer and people look up to you for what you say, and you may not be a manager, but you have really good ideas. Make it a point to be like, you know what, I want to hear what Audrey has to say. Audrey, do you have anything to say about this? So it's also acknowledging that I am here, and because I am here, I am trusted because the company hired me, and utilizing me in a way that's productive, that will help with the bottom line, but also see the humanity within me. That's the first thing about mentorship. The next thing is, Alicia, again, thank you for what you said. It is so true that it doesn't have to start from the top. Mentorship can happen at any level, and it doesn't even have to be formal. The way I was mentored when I was getting into HR, I was in the call center, and a worker that was in training HR just really loved what I was doing. And I talked about how I love businesses and people. She was like, well, just have lunch with me, sit with me, shadow me, look and see what I'm doing for a little bit. I don't think they would mind. So all those type of things helps out with the inclusion, equity, and diversity that is needed for any and all of our businesses to grow.
I love it. Well, ladies, thank you so much for doing this. Sincerely appreciate it. Before we go, though, I want to have you both share what the latest and greatest you're working on so that people know. And, of course, we have a comment box. So at the end, you can feel free to put in the comment section, too. But Audrey, why don't we start with you? What is something we should know or find you on when we are searching for you?
Sure. The best place right now is definitely LinkedIn. I tell everyone my LinkedIn is popping. So get on LinkedIn and I will communicate back with you. What I'm getting into now is diving into more DEI, focusing more on equity. And inclusion, yes, all these things. But one thing that it's a serious need of is exactly what is equity and why is it important? And how is it different from, for instance, equality? So right now I am developing how-to series on equity, on allyship, and others that I will be presenting to, for instance, some human resource societies, some colleges and other businesses. And so now let's get down to the how-to. What does that look like? Including exercises that others can participate in, activities, so that it stays in their mind longer. So that's what I'm working on, is how-to series in DE&I, from the rooter to the tutor, as my mom would say.
How about you, Alicia?
Well, my company, Humanity in HR, we seek to work with companies who want to put their policies into practice by putting employees first. In customers, they always say customers come first, but employees don't come last. So just remembering that we have to look out for employees, because they're the ones who are often on the front line and, really burning the midnight oil for us. So I'm working with companies who look for D&I help, look for coaching as well. And I'm working with companies and entrepreneurs as well who are just looking to build more structure in their company. I always believe in starting how you plan to end. So just keeping the end in mind, building the structure out to grow your company so that in years to come, you'll be profitable. So thank you for that. And then LinkedIn is the best way to find me.
Okay, well, thank you both. Again, everyone, thank you for checking out this amazing LinkedIn Live. Look forward to seeing you all having another one on Thursday. Stay tuned for details on that, everyone. But have a great day, everyone.